I mean, if I remember right from the interview, it was Crew Vut you were with first?
So yeah, I was, when I was like 12, I was doing Taekwondo and I won the Junior Olympics a couple times. Doing well with that.
You won the Junior Olympics?
Yeah,
I never knew that. Huh.
Twice.
All right, nice.
You know, it's semi-contact, you know, it was Olympic style competition. And I want something a little like rougher, and it turned out the gym that I was currently training at had a seminar for this guy who came through, and he was going to teach Muay Thai, and this guy Kamnar came through, he taught it, and I just got instantly hooked. I was traveling to LA and Vegas to train with him, Florida. I put a lot of years in with him, and that's where I met a ton of people through the whole game, a lot of older guys. You know, Walter from Sityodtong out in California, like, met a ton of old guys.
Right.
And I was just like a young kid the whole time. I was like,
so you're just soaking
15,
up
16, just soaking it up, yeah.
Nice.
So that was a huge development in me, personally, and, you know, just how I carry myself today.
Well, what's your fight? How many fights have you had now, total?
I would say, you kind of lose track, but it would be something like 35 amateur, and then I'm pushing 32 professional. So 60 fights, something like that, possibly, yeah. Not a ton, but enough that's respectable.
Yeah, it's respectable, yeah. 60 something is a big number.
Yeah, for sure.
You got any funny stories out of like fights you've had or situations you were in?
This wasn't my fight, but it was so I got this call of the lifetime from Phil Nurse, and he said, I can't, Sean Hinds, you know Sean Hinds. Yeah. Sean Hinds is fighting in Russia. He's like, I can't make it. He's like, you want to go and corner him? And I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to Russia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I get my passport. That's the first time I get a passport. I've ever had a passport. So I'm like my early 20s. I bring Sean Hinds. We're going to Russia. We go to Russia, and you know, his fight, you know, the whole build up, you know, waiting to weigh in, losing those couple pounds, some press work, pad work. The food was not stellar. And where they put us, we were on the outskirts of Moscow. Okay. It was almost like a Rocky movie. Like, I'm like, oh, they're putting you in the GS. Like, all right, they're trying to make it hard for you. Like, I'm waiting for them to call us at 2 in the morning to wake us up.
I've heard stories like that about Pride back in the day. Yeah. The foreigner they'd bring in, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you.
They were, I mean, everybody was, I mean, for being Russian, they seemed pretty decent. Like, they, you know. Yeah. But we go, and the food is, it's horrible, and he's not, you know, getting enough food. And I remember my mom and my wife are like, bring ramen. So I had a bunch of ramen with me. Okay. So we just need to go out and get a wand. You know what's it called?
Right, like the electric stick.
Yeah, because there's no kettle in the room because they're not going to give us a kettle. Right. Why would it be a kettle? No. You're not allowed a kettle. So we go out, we buy the wand. And we go out, and I come back, and I'm like, I'm really hungry, and I got a bag of Pringles here, and I got my ramen ready, and I stick the wand in, cook it, my shit, it all works out. Soup is good. Put it in, go over and sit. Sean is fighting that day, so, you know, he's like super hungry, and he's like, I need to eat for the day. He sticks the wand in, and it just explodes in his face. Ramen goes all over his face and shit. And I was just so like desperate for food. I was like, oh man, that sucks. And I just kept eating. I felt so bad, but he's like, motherfucker. You didn't get to eat that day.
Man, how'd the fight go?
It was a good fight. He lost a close decision, but I mean, it was Russia. Like, it was very...
they were slanting everything against you in the first place.
Yeah, but I think it was also the time when he fought a guy on, do you remember Moonstone? Like when 5 Points were doing shows at Roseland?
Oh, I went to a few of those, yeah.
Yeah, those Russians that came through.
Okay.
He fought that guy Arthur or whatever, one of the guys who fought in New York. Sean, I think maybe beat him there, and then he rematched him in Russia. Forget the exact details. But interesting trip. For sure.
That sounds like, yeah, I mean.
Yeah. But just exploding in his face, and I'm like, you know, I should eat my food, but I'm like, I need to eat. The food is such, it was, you know, it was just like the salad was greasy. It was just like, we just couldn't get proper food for him, and I knew he had to fight that day, but.
Who do you watch now? I mean, you're 65 fights in. What kind of style do you like to watch? What kind of fighters in particular?
I still watch like the classics, Samat and Dieselnoy and all those guys. But also, you know, it's funny. I used to watch fights 24 hours a day. You get home from work, get home from training, watch fights. Now, literally, I'm almost like what my old coach was. And I'm like, why did you watch this fight? And he's like, dude, I go home and I got to turn my brain off for a second. Yeah. So I don't watch a ton. I actually go home and I actually watch less fights now than I would when I was a lot younger. But if I was gonna watch fights, I would watch same guys.
Golden era.
Golden era guys. Yeah. Just like the technical and the pace of the fights a little better. I try to stay in touch and on top of the new stuff too. Right. It's but it's tough.
You were saying, like we were talking before, the Masvidal and Covington fights. I don't watch a ton of UFC, but every now and again there's a fight where I'm like, I can get into that.
Every once in a while they come around with that fight that's just like boxing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, heavyweight boxing. I try to watch as much boxing as I can because I do like boxing, but it's kind of bland. But every once in a while they'll draw you in with that big fight. Yeah. That's like how the UFC is.
It's tough with the UFC, I find, because with boxing there's 4 or 5 big fights a year, right?
It's a show every weekend in the UFC.
I'm like, I can't keep track of all this. Yep. Like, I got friends that are real into it, and I think it's cool to watch, but my eyes start to glaze over after a while. I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's so much going on, I can't keep track of who's who.
As it goes on more and more, I feel like there's less fighters that I actually know. Mm-hmm. You can see a card, in early 2000s. I'm like, yeah, I know this Chuck. Bop. Now it's like, oh, the headliner I kind of know, and the rest of the guys are, not to put them down, but I'm just not familiar anymore. Yeah.
It's interesting because I've always thought, the MMA coming up definitely helped Muay Thai. But I remember, like, I've known people in the past who are like, oh, MMA, no, it's no good. I'm like, all boats are rising with the tide here. Like, everything's coming up together. So, getting like territorial about stuff or whatever.
No, the fact that UFC Fight Pass picked up Glory, UFC Fight Pass picked up Lion Fight, possibly pick up some other companies soon. I mean, they know there's a market for Muay Thai, and people are, getting interested in it. And it's like, you don't want to watch a lot of grappling? Here's Glory. But it's just still not there yet. Yeah, it's close. Yeah, it's still fringe, right? It's called a niche. Yeah, I would call it a niche sport. Yeah.
So April 1st, you're on the Warriors Cup card. Where can people follow your gym and you on social media?
Instagram at Rose Muay Thai. At Instagram, Brett X Threat.
And you can follow Warriors Cup at Warriors Cup _3PP for 3 Pillar Promotions. And then if you want to stream the fight, it's at bxngtv.com. And if you want to attend it, it's at Melrose Ballroom in Queens. You can go to 3pillarpromotions.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at Liam Talks Fights, LIAM Talks Fights. And keep updated on what's going on in the scene. And 198-pound title on the line April 1st.
All right.
It's good to go. I'm glad we got to do this because
it's been a while.
We saw each other at the fights, and I was like, oh man, I feel like I haven't seen you in like 2 years. And then we had a great conversation. I was like, we should try to just, I don't know,
Chat
talk. Yeah. This has been good, man.
It was good.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool.